Okay. Hello, welcome to Comics Unmasked, the show where we unmask for comics.
Filthy masks.
By the
Let it
way,
not age well.
on a side note, keep wearing masks, guys. Don't unmask comics. Mask up comics. If you go into your comic shop, put a mask on. If you've
Yeah,
been double vaxxed, it's still probably worth wearing a mask.
in hindsight, naming this show what we did this year,
Yeah,
probably not the
not
best thing we ever did.
no. But on another bookkeeping note, before we start the show proper, because we've got some juicy news to be discussing
We do indeed.
this week. At the tail end of the last episode that went up live, I talk about how much I love D&D, and Andrew states how he would quite like to play something like that sometime. And while you've not, D&D is still something you're not sold on, there was an adamant never. And here we are a few weeks later, and you've got big into tabletop board gaming.
I stand by what I said, because tabletop gaming is still an inherently limited experience in comparison, where there are set choices and that is it. I can do one of three things and nothing else. There's no thinking about it, there's no I have to role play anything. There's just no. These are the things I need to do to get points. That's it. I can do that.
It's a step in the direction.
It's just no. I don't like the freedom.
Too much freedom.
Which I know is the appeal for a lot of people. But to me, that is just like I don't have that much imagination.
It's the crafting a story with friends that I enjoy. But it's the case in when you're talking about sessions and stuff after the fact. It's never oh yeah, do you remember when our characters did this? It's oh yeah, do you remember when we tried to cross that bridge and we ended up climbing over your unconscious body to get over? It's always that kind of.
That's the part that just eludes my brain. That has no appeal. I don't have the imagination required.
It hardwires you to be it's why sometimes and I think why after a heavy session or something that was more scary or something that was more emotional or things like that, you can you feel like you have to take, because I don't think your brain fundamentally, in the same way that I think when you're watching a film or playing a game, because you've got that third party divide.
Yeah.
I don't think the brain always knows oh wait, we weren't in a life and death situation.
It's the same thing with VR, where there are studies shown that you remember events in VR games better than you do any other game, because your brain files it away under your own personal memories, because it's I did this.
Yeah.
As opposed to, I watched a character do this, because it's first person and it is so immersive. It feels like you did it. Your brain just subconsciously files it under your own memories rather than of memories of something you experienced.
I had a moment in the campaign I play in where my character got rather sulky and went for a walk around the city to kind of. I had to take a moment just to stress that. Oh, I just want everyone to know I'm not I'm not sulking at the way that played out. My character is 100%.
Yeah.
But I just want to put on the table James, not sulking at this moment.
No, just 5 minutes later he was.
But yeah, so yeah, on to comics. DC announced a lot of Batman this week.
They did announce a lot of Batman. I swear we're not just a DC podcast, but it was a lot of Batman.
It was a lot of Batman. I mean, it's the problem when 2/3 of us are big DC fans, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when you remove the 1/3 and it's just us two.
Yeah, don't worry, we both still read Marvel and
Yeah,
indie stuff, reasonable amount, but definitely probably more than half of all my comics reading is DC.
but yeah, a lot of Batman.
A lot of Batman,
And
and more than half of my DC reading is Batman at this point. Let's be honest,
well, more than half of DC's publications are Batman at this point.
it probably is.
And the problem is, like, when people take umbrage with it, and I get it, but he has, and again, it's part of that. It is kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Hmm.
It's a bit like
Batman spells will give you more.
I saw on a similar note, I saw someone point out how Tom Hanks' sons,
Sure,
Colin and Chet,
Chet.
yeah,
Yeah.
are a perfect example of normative determinism. How Colin is definitely a Colin, and Chet is the chettiest Chet you'll ever meet.
He really is.
Yeah, but like that, Nightwing 100% deserves a solo book, and I don't know if I. Yes, it's technically a Batman book, I guess.
It's a weird one because it's Batman adjacent
Yeah,
in the sense that yes, he is a inherently related to Batman. You know, his history is steeped in Batman,
like
but Batman's not really in that book. He's not even
Gotham
in Gotham.
has the largest like
Yeah.
it's Batman is DC's X-Men.
Yes, in that you could have an entire subline of just Batman books and it would still be enough for any one publisher.
Yeah, and they could still feel fresh and different.
Unique across the line while still being
Like
connected.
as much as I love Jimmy Olsen and Lois Lane, and I think a Lois Lane book permanently would be great, as well as a Jimmy Olsen book. Though I still need to read the last two series.
Although, yeah, both had great 12-issue maxis in the last couple of years.
Yeah,
But that Jimmy Olsen
you
one in
go
particular,
beyond
goddamn.
Lois and Jimmy, and there's the
You
Guardian.
get you got Kara,
Yeah,
which
Supergirl.
yeah, like I say, you're starting to run out.
I was gonna say Wonder Woman. Surprisingly, is actually getting a fair amount of extra books.
Yeah, got Nubia.
Nubia,
You've got
Wonder Girl,
Wonder Girl.
Wonder Woman, and then we're getting a Wonder Woman mini as well.
Yeah, which is not bad for Wonder Woman. Where
No,
it wasn't so long ago
it's the
where it was
strongest
like, oh,
headline
Wonder
has
Woman
been.
can't even hold a second book.
Yeah, it's the strongest headline has been for as long as I've been reading comics. In regards to the amount of stuff coming out, I can't speak on quality yet. But
Yeah, I would agree with that. Quality is one, it's pretty subjective anyway,
yeah,
and
but
two,
I'm loving Wonder Woman and Wonder Girl, so
Wonder Girl's pretty fantastic. Wonder Woman I'm liking a lot, but Wonder Girl is, yeah,
taking Wonder Woman out of the DCU for want of a better term at the moment
for about a
is
year or
proving
so.
interesting.
Yeah, we know she's coming back in about October, I want to say.
Yeah.
Um, which should be interesting in its own right.
Danny DeVito's writing a Penguin story.
Yeah, they've been doing this a lot lately of getting actors of characters to write short stories in their
Yeah.
anthologies. They had Nicole Maines do Dreamer, which is the character she played in Supergirl, and it was her version of Dreamer,
Yeah.
which was kind of new. It was a new take on it for the Supergirl show, and this was the first introduction of that take of the character into comics, and they had her write it. They had the guy who plays Luke Fox on Batwoman.
Yeah.
I think it was Batwoman. Yeah, right. Write a Batwing story. And now, obviously, the highest profile one is Danny DeVito.
Yeah.
But cool, why not?
We're seeing more stuff from Dan Waters or Waters.
Waters?
Waters
Double T, isn't
in
it?
the DC universe. Obviously, he's got his Arkham miniseries that he's writing.
Very excited for that.
Yeah, that
He's
looks so
doing something. So he just did a backup in Detective Comics
good.
as well, I believe.
Arkham miniseries are always considered some of the best stuff that Batman comes out. They never last long, but like there was one during the New 52 that was particularly great.
Was that?
Yeah, it was. Was it Jerry Dugan? Yeah, Jerry Dugan.
Oh, have I read this one?
It was certainly Arkham focused.
Is this the Arkham War stuff in the Forever Evil?
No,
No, that's not it. I don't think I had Arkham in the name because
it
nothing's
didn't.
showing up when I
Oh
search
yeah, it
Arkham.
did. Arkham Manor.
Arkham Manor.
Batman Arkham Manor.
Did I read this? I have no recollection of this at all,
It
which is
lasted
shocking for me.
like it didn't last long,
6
and he
issues, yeah.
signed up, and not long after he became a Marvel exclusive writer. But
Well, I'm too mad about that. I've never loved any of his stuff
it
personally.
was good. And then Dan Slott had a great Arkham miniseries.
Yep, and then of course you've got the famous Morrison book.
Yep, and then also around Dicker's Bat era,
Yeah,
there was a really good Arkham like run where Jeremiah, isn't it?
yeah.
Just goes like probably should be an Arkham kind of funny.
Hmm.
Again, it was one of the books that was coming out that no one was really talking about. It was
There's a
just
lot of
kind
bad
of
books at that
yeah,
time.
it was just kind of there doing its Arkhamy thing, and this reminds me of a lot of these little never went
Hmm.
anywhere Arkham runs we've had over the years.
They tend to sell okay because Arkham as a name
Yeah, and Batman.
has appeal. Batman obviously, but
Yeah,
Arkham has it's had appeal in comics arguably ever since Morrison. But then the popularity of the Arkham video games,
Robbins is coming out.
which that was one of the ones from
That was the winner.
the infamous bracket.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was the winner. Okay.
I saw some people saying like that other people who voted for it to avoid more representation in comics. So obviously there's a lot of representation in those books, and now kind of had now that Tim has come out, have it's ended up stealthily a representative book anyway.
Yes, I think that was a very disingenuous comment anyway, for people to accuse people of voting for the Robbins book because they're against.
I mean, we sure know there would have been a sect of fan base who would do exactly that.
I'm sure there was, but also as a DC fan, you
Oh
tell
yeah,
me
I don't think
here's a
all
book with all the Robins together
I
doing
don't
this
think
story. That's appealing.
I don't think all its voters are that way inclined. I just
No,
think there would have been people voting for it for that reason.
I'm sure there was some, yeah, but
But yeah, that's coming out. It's Tinian's last month on Batman to take us to our main subject at hand.
yeah,
It's not his last month on Joker. He's carrying that through to the end of his
I
Joker
think
plans,
it's issue 14 and it comes
which
out
should
like
be
April.
April, yeah. But it's his last month on the Batman title.
And when we say last month, we're talking about November, which is the solicits that just dropped,
yes,
not the month that you're listening to this now,
yes,
unless
sorry,
that's
yeah.
in November. In which case,
No,
yes,
I
this is the last
think
month.
this might actually be not this week because I've decided to go for a 2 weekly upload speed for this show.
But look, this is evergreen. People might come and listen to this in 3 or 4 months' time.
They will, and I
they
think
could be listening to this in November.
this is going to be the next episode of some of the other ones I've got in the catalogue. I'm gonna push out because I think because of what we're talking about here, it makes sense to get it up.
Yeah, because this is interesting stuff. Because the reason he is leaving is he has a fancy new deal along with lots of other high-profile creators.
Yes. One note before we move on to it. The solicits for DC were a mixture of. We haven't had any other companies solicits yet, have we? Just DC's.
Just DC's.
Yeah. They were a mixture of December and November, which is normal for this time of year if that happens. However,
It's
no Batman mainline booked for December because obviously we don't know who's going to be the creative team yet.
nope,
Do you want to put a guess in?
nope.
Yeah, my guess is was and I think is out because they've announced the things that they were teasing.
Yeah, I think what's interesting to me is because we've got Marika Tamaki on Detective Comics right now,
And
which
Detective
is also
is apparently going to be leading the next Batvent.
yes, Shadows of the Bat.
Yeah, where Batman leaves Gotham.
I'm all for. Sounds interesting.
Yeah. So
What's interesting to me is that tells me that maybe for the first time in a while, probably since the start of the New 52, Detective might be the main book as opposed to Batman.
Second note, because obviously, which Fox is it?
I want to say Jace
Is
is his
obviously
name.
Batman now,
Mm-hmm.
and potentially the Gotham Batman if Bruce has left Gotham.
Yeah. It is possible
Do
that,
they sleep Batman for a
well,
while?
I mean,
Or do they give it to a creator who has a firm like, nah, I just want to tell a Batman story. It gets to do its own thing off in whatever corner it's happening.
maybe, but like,
Thing is,
here's the thing. The original plan for 5G would have had Ridley take over Batman at, I want to say 100.
which I would have
And
predicted would be what was happening if I Am Batman wasn't starting.
that's the thing. They've got this book already going.
But
So there's
also, how
no
short
really.
notice have they had to move here?
Well, Tynan was under contract, so it can't have been out of nowhere. He was under
No,
contract. I
he
know for a
decided.
fact
Yeah,
he
he.
was renewing his contract a year at a time. So
Yeah.
they will have had something in the back pocket in case he
Well,
chose
I
not to
think
renew.
from what Tyler said, he'd been offered a 3-year contract by DC.
He had, but I know this is coming from actually a little while ago. This information. I don't think it's outdated though. This is coming from still while he was during his Batman run, but earlier in it.
Yeah.
It was just after he 5G fell through and he stayed on with Batman, and he was saying how he has a 3-year plan, um, and but he is only doing his contract 1 year at a
Yeah.
time. So he had a 12-month contract, and then DC, assuming sales were good and he wanted to, would renew, and he would renew for 3 years was his plan. Obviously, things changed, but that meant DC surely, just in case things fell through, any smart business should have had something in their back pocket prepared in case this happens.
Yeah. So Substack, the newsletter subscription company, threw a bunch of comic creators grants, and grant is the right word,
Yes.
which Tynan was one of them.
Yeah, it was a lump upfront sum, right?
Yeah, to make what you want as long as that stuff has like a year on Substack or something like that.
No, not even that.
I know there was some kind of time frame. You have to
You have to publish stuff.
for a year,
Yes.
but then
But
you've
there
got
was weird where you didn't even have there's no actual obligation for it to be
there
comics
wasn't
or comics
no,
related.
and there was an obligation to have a premium service, I believe,
Yes, they
because
had to
what
push towards having subscribers.
because Molly Ostertag's one that she started up, the comics are going to be on for free on her free newsletters.
Mm.
And she's going to put out the occasional, and she stated in the newsletter, like, I'll be putting out the occasional subscriber only newsletter because I'm legally obliged to. But
Very
she's
interesting way of doing it.
donating all, and leading on to some. Before we get into what this means for comics, worth stating that Substack. There's some issues here.
Morally questionable.
Yes. Ostertag is donating all her subscription proceeds to a trans charity, for example.
Yeah, and I
And
don't think I've not read too much of it, but I don't think it's that Substack themselves are explicitly.
Substack doesn't care who it platforms.
Yes,
That's fundamentally the problem. The other problem you have is the lack of transparency in Substack and how it states it's not an editorial platform, but it's giving money to people to create on it, which is
well, that's the weird thing. Technically, it's not. It's giving money to people with an obligation for them to create something that will drive subscribers.
but as long as somebody's choosing who that money is going to, there is some form of.
No, that's true.
And if what and is a publication, a newsletter is a publication.
It is.
So if you are picking And obviously, me and you could go and create a Substack tomorrow, and we're not likely to get a grant from Substack.
Worth a
But
try though.
as long as Substack is choosing who to give money to with a lack of transparency, there is an arguable hidden editorial agenda
Sure.
there. And it's the lack of transparency that is the key. Because, again, various creators have talked about the problems here. Saladin Ahmed said that he doesn't want a seed ground on a platform. If he could,
Mm-hmm.
if he could be there and be doing something, why should he cede all that ground to terrible people?
Yeah, why let them have it when you can use it for good, so
Yeah,
to speak.
and there is some. It's worth noting there's some bad people using Substack.
Right, but how different is that to Twitter?
Exactly.
And
But
don't get me wrong,
Twitter isn't paying
Twitter
people
is
to tweet. It
yeah,
it's a ball. It's messy,
it is.
and it's more nuanced than discussing it on Twitter allows. And I think it's more nuanced than me and you can necessarily
Probably. I think
discuss here as well.
for me, I respect anyone who doesn't want to use Substack. Like Kieran Gillen obviously moved
Yeah.
away from it sometime last year.
And I
I'm
respect
not.
anyone who doesn't want to buy into any of these comics for that reason
Yep,
as well.
but also I kind of want to read Tynan's comics.
And then we get into the fact that how morally questionable is the comic industry in general.
Yeah, and then
How many years
and
have we
then
been buying DC comics knowing full well the kind of people?
Bob Hurrah, Eddie
Yeah.
Berganza.
It
Yeah,
it's complicated, and
it is.
maybe it's not. Maybe the easy solution is don't give bad companies money. But
Yep. Here's the thing,
there
though.
is no ethical consumption in capitalism.
With things like this, I almost feel in some ways better about it than say giving to DC. So let's say I'm paying
You're paying
$7 a
Tinian.
month. Yeah, Tynan's what, $7 a month, I think.
Yeah,
Right, so I'm
Tynan.
going
Yeah,
to
so
pay
I
that.
say Tinian, it's Tynan, isn't it?
It's fine, everyone does. So $7 a month. That's what, like $80 odd a year.
Yeah,
So I'm giving him. Well, I'm not giving him any of that $80. I'm giving Substack that money.
I believe the creators get a cut of that.
Do they get a cut of that as well? Because I thought I don't know if they just get their grant
No,
and
because in
then
theory, grant aside,
they would still get a cut for their sign up.
yeah. So if you're running if you're running a premium Substack, you get a cut from
That makes sense.
sign up.
Right. So
It's
he's getting a
just
certain amount
the
from
grant,
that.
I believe, is on top of that.
Right.
And let's be fair, that grant is going to have gone towards paying his artists, paying
Himself as well, I'm sure. Some.
paying
Yeah.
probably
Living
paying
costs.
for publishing when they come to doing print copies.
Yeah.
And from all accounts, they're sizable
Oh.
grants.
Yeah, and we'll get onto the publishing element of it in a minute as well. But here's the thing: so if we're giving this money, yes, we are giving probably a majority of our $80-ish a year to Substack. But there's the idea, the point that the more people who are signed up through Tynan, the more they're going to give them a grant next year. And they've been pretty upfront about the fact that that is kind of how it's going to work.
Yeah. And
Success will determine future payments.
I also don't think, as a company, they're beyond, like, and I think this is where the creators should potentially make stronger stances on what they think Substack should do in regards to certain things. But the company isn't Twitter or Amazon, or it's not beyond the point of.
Do you know what I think makes it, for me personally, a lot more palatable? If I don't want to see an alt-right newsletter, I just don't subscribe to it, even the free version.
Which is a point that
And I will never
was
see
made
it.
in some other creators.
Right, whereas on Twitter, if I don't want to see that,
You're probably going to see it.
I'm still going to see some
And
of it just
Substack
by the nature of people
Is an
interacting with it.
algorithm driven.
Yes. This isn't. This is, Oh, I sign up to the newsletter. I choose to do that
And
entirely. I can stop at any point I
it
want to.
sounds like how deep Tynan got into researching conspiracy theories for the Department of Truth. That has led him to despising the algorithm.
Everyone should despise the algorithm.
Yeah, the algorithm. The algorithm is awful.
Every algorithm
Yeah,
on social media, YouTube, Twitter,
yeah.
Facebook, all of them, all just
Like
terrible.
even my heavily curated YouTube feed, right? That very rarely anything pops into. Stuff still creeps in. It's like, no, get that out of here, YouTube. Go,
Hmm.
get it gone.
It does not take long to go down a rabbit hole on YouTube. Like
No,
3 or 4 videos max.
and that's the thing. It's me watching one video slightly outside of what we normally watch, but that I'm interested in. That then leads to okay, like one of the worst things is like stuck on a video game and I want to quickly, and I can't be bothered going to grab a machine I'm not automatically signed in on.
Yeah.
So I end up watching a quick walkthrough video, and then it's like, oh boom, I've got far right gamers in my mentions forever. Now it's got to take me weeks to get it back under control.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a nightmare. And like I said, that doesn't happen with Substack. There's no way
No,
that I can accidentally start seeing someone
I
else's
get
newsletter.
the people I'm subscribed to,
Yeah, they can recommend people and widen your bubble that way.
and if they're starting to recommend questionable people to me, I would then potentially also question
Yes,
my original subscription, right?
right.
Like I've only subscribed to Tynan's.
Are you planning on any others?
I'm subscribed to free versions of a fair few other comic creators, and I'm keeping an eye on what's
I will tell you what I need. I need a resource, some sort of Twitter account that can keep track of
yeah.
these are the comic creators with newsletters, what they are. These are the free ones, paid ones, just so I can go. Oh, who's got one? I don't know. It's a ball ache to find them.
So the major names so far, Tynan obviously as the big one.
Yep.
Snyder, but not for comics. Snyder is using his as a teaching how to write platform,
Yep.
which is fascinating in and of itself. And again, that grant was large enough for him to decide he's not teaching at schools anymore.
And he teaches not like nowhere schools.
No. Like,
So
uh,
again,
Hickman is world building.
yes, I think he is writing stuff, but he has
He
a lot
is.
of people contributing to his world.
I read that his first few newsletters, the whole thing just sounds fucking
I
fascinating.
I don't know how, but I've suddenly become subscribed to a Hickman newsletter. I don't remember subscribing to this, but it popped up in my thing, and I'm like, I don't know if I've got like a specific couple of ones because
Yeah.
Ramv, I'm subscribed to Ramv, and he's connected to this, so I don't know if he's like adding a couple to his
Yeah.
list. And that's why I've got these 2 or 3.
Like, it's some of, like, reading the process so far. And there's going to be comics coming out of this.
Eventually.
It sounds relatively soon. And it even sounds like the comics themselves will be part of the world building. But yeah, he's got Ramv to design a religious. Is Ramv the religious system or the economic system?
I think he's the religious one.
Yeah. Teeny Howard is designing the magic system.
Yep.
And then someone else is designing. Al Ewing is designing the economic system.
Yep.
All creators I'm rather fond of.
If Hickman wasn't involved in this, I'd be like, "Ooh, I'm very interested."
See, this is what Hickman's good at, though, and this is where
I despise
he
it. I
is
like
good. Like,
I like his ambition. I despise his writing.
well, did you see the meme I put in the
Yeah,
chat the
yeah.
other day about how he's just someone who probably should have discovered like tabletop RPGs but never did?
Hmm.
And it's
It
right.
would have saved the world a lot of pain and misery. And by the world,
I
I
always
mean
used
me.
to describe him as Morrison without heart, but I don't think that's accurate anymore. Like, that was before I saw so much of Hickman's behind what he does to do what he does.
He has too many rules and functions and hardwiring. Like this means that and that and that. Morrison just goes with the magic.
Yeah, I mean, Hickman is fascinating, and there's something dry about a lot of his comics, and they're not. I don't dislike him as much as you do. There's Hickman comics I quite like, but I find him and his writing style fascinating.
I know Peter, who I do the DC Comics podcast with, obviously, has said a few times in the past that he really does not like Del Toro's movies. Guillermo del
Yeah,
Toro. He just does not get on with his movies. But he would love to sit down and talk with the man just about filmmaking.
yeah.
I kind of felt with Hickman. I think I do not like reading his comics. I do not like them. But I think he would be very interesting to talk
You
to.
appreciate the craft if you don't appreciate
The story.
the end product.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. I would never say he's lazy or anything like that.
And Chip Zdarsky, he's got one.
Yes, yeah.
He's
That's
writing
very
what
tempting.
he's viewing as his big follow-up to Sex Criminals.
Yeah, and interestingly, obviously, we talk about how Tynan is doing so much for his that he is leaving DC behind.
Yeah.
Zdarsky is not leaving Marvel. He is continuing to write Daredevil and whatever else he's doing over there.
The reason Tynan's leaving DC is because he's viewed this as his I keep talking about how I want to. I think some people are viewing this as like, oh, this is a way I can make more comics. Right? Tynan, I think, is viewing this as like, oh, wait, this may be how I can shape what I think the comic industry should be.
Yes, because we've talked a lot on this show already about Tynan and what he's been trying to do in this here. Like, he is very excited about not having to adhere to the 20-page format of a monthly comic.
He's got non-fiction comics planned. I mean, the first one is non-fiction.
Is it?
Yeah, Blue Book is going to be...
Oh, yes, it is, yeah.
It's based on real life...
People's experiences of their encounters.
Yeah, it's based on real reported UFO encounters. That would be, I think, the way to phrase it.
Yes.
Which, again, I read in his newsletters about what he had planned and reading Department of Truth as well.
Is that Oming on art for that one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who his plan was originally to have Omen do some of it, and Omen just says, no, I want to do it all.
Yeah. And I think he was talking about how some of these will be shorter, some of them will be longer, and then maybe I think his plan was to top it off with essentially like a full-on graphic novel at the end.
Well, his dream is actually to have a series of, so someone could in theory have a shelf full of these little, bit like the kind of fit like UFO stories he grew up on as a kid. Stuff that I think would have been around, we could have probably experienced as kids as well, but kind of isn't there anymore.
Yeah.
These little like little blue books, effectively, that could sit on someone's shelf, and it'd be a collection of comic adapted UFO encounters.
Yeah, I think there was one he said he wanted to essentially do a novel.
Yeah, he wants to write a non-fiction prose about the comic industry,
which sounds entirely up my street. Like, yes, please.
He's putting out his How the Sausage Was Making, the Batman.
Yeah, speaking of, that first one should have gone out. I need to go and sign up to Tynan's newsletter.
It has gone out. It's good. It's more a mission statement than any major reveals so far.
What? Just before I go and start hunting, what payment methods does Substack take? Do they take PayPal?
I have no idea. It only gave me the option of Apple Pay.
Do you do it on your phone?
I did, yeah, which might be why, but
I'm intrigued. I'm very intrigued.
I was fine using Apple Pay because it was easy enough.
Yeah, like if I do it on my phone now and it tells me I can use Google Pay, I'll be like, yeah, sure, that works for me. I pay on all sorts of stuff on Google Pay just because it's just, I just click it and it's done.
But what's fascinating to me is that he's, and it's because this feels weird for the comic industry, right? A notoriously secretive industry in a weird way.
Yeah, I mean, we're back to being secretive now, especially now that Diamond are no longer reporting numbers because they don't have enough numbers to report.
The kind of like the stuff we have about the industry's past and things like that as well. Right? It's all secretive, kind of salacious tell-alls of a Marvel bullpen.
Yeah. Oh, damn it! They're making me put my card in. My
So the
card's
fact
in the
that
other
he's
room.
just left DC and publishing a big, and for a company that is very like DC is very corporate,
Yeah. Very.
that he's leaving in good graces
By all accounts.
by all accounts, and they're still publishing um, Nice House on the Lake, aren't they?
Yes. They are, and obviously, I think he's still technically a co-writer on the Vampires one.
Yeah, as in he plotted it, and obviously he's still there till April on Joker.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the fact that one of his first major projects under the new Substack deal is, oh, this is how working at DC is, and seemingly going to be going into a lot of 5G, which feels like DC wouldn't want him to do.
Well, here's the thing. People have been doing it anyway.
Yeah,
Williamson has been, who is currently writing Infinite Frontier, I think it's called, which
yeah.
is the actual big, current event
It seems to
style
be
book.
flowing into a Justice League book in November.
Yes, just Justice League Incarnate, which
Yeah.
is the team. Yeah, he's been talking about 5G stuff pretty publicly on podcasts, like in interviews.
Maybe they don't
So
care.
it's, I think now that Didio's gone and 5G was by all accounts Didio's baby, that they're like, screw it, who cares?
Yeah, it's not what we're doing, so
I think it almost makes it look good for them.
yeah.
In that, look, we made the right choice getting rid of Didio. This was the right thing to do. Look what a mess it would have been if we'd let him just get away with it all.
Letting it all seep out
Yeah,
kind of shows. Yeah, see, it's a good call.
yeah.
But
I
yeah,
don't know.
I'm very excited for Blue Book. Blue Book sounds brilliant.
I'm kind of excited for anything Tynan does at this
Have you
point.
read any of Department of Truth yet?
No, I believe I've got the deluxe pre-ordered.
So good,
I
man.
think it's Department of Truth I've got pre-ordered. I'm going to double check. I've definitely got a Tynan book pre-ordered.
Yeah, Something's Coming Children.
That might be Something's Killing the Children. Yeah. Damn it.
Yeah, but I don't think there's a deluxe of Department of Truth yet.
Yet.
One of those image books that probably much further down the line, but it's also one of those image books that's worth reading in singles because the in-between issues aren't necessarily going to be collected straight away.
Oh god damn it. Comixology it is.
Yeah. That said, Image dropped the prices of their books very quickly, so
Yeah, I imagine I could catch up for.
yeah, you probably get the first trade
Not
because
that
it's a
much.
first Image trade for £8, I bet, and then the second arc is probably nearly £1.59 for most of the issues now.
Yeah.
He's got the
that's
first
hope.
in between issue is set in like the Middle Ages, and it has Elsa Sharita on art.
Are you trying to make me poor?
It's so good, and it's like
First trade is £6.39.
someone goes to meet a monk, and they have this long talk about what truth is and how just by rewriting. It's kind of like talk about how like the Dark Age stuff and forgotten time and those conspiracy theories that time isn't as long.
Oh, is this the missing 200 years?
Yeah, that issue is basically all about that missing 200 years conspiracy theory.
Yes. Oh, I love that one. That's for anyone not familiar. That's roughly off the top of my head. It was like the Catholic Church and a couple
It's
of
the
other
idea that
institutions were like,
Charlemagne was not a real person.
yeah, it was the idea that, well, they wanted their reigns to coincide with the year 1000, but it wouldn't have done. So they fudged the dates and like
Yeah.
skipped over 100 or 200 years or whatever it was to just go like, hey, we're year 1000, and then had to make up hundreds of years worth of history to fill that gap so it didn't look suspicious later on. Like what?
It's easily disproven, but it is
It's brilliant.
yeah.
It's brilliant for a story.
There's a whole issue about it.
Oh, I assume if I really wanted to, I could just jump in and read that issue.
You could, yeah.
I mean, I won't, but
It's the kind of issue where it stands on its own because what it does is flesh out everything else you've. It adds
yeah,
it adds context to what you're reading more than it needs the other stuff. Like, and then the other standalone issue is an earlier story of one of the head of the department. It was Lee Harvey Oswald.
fair enough.
The head of the Department of Truth is the man who apparently assassinated.
Allegedly,
Yeah,
yeah.
the
No,
book is so damn good, and obviously it plays in the idea of that folkloric idea of a tulpa.
Mm-hmm.
That if something is believed in enough,
becomes real.
It becomes real, which is again, it's something I've always quite enjoyed and been drawn to.
That's an idea I've seen. I've seen so many different things. Even going back to when I was younger, I'm reading even like kids' books, like the Percy Jackson books,
Yeah,
which also, for the record, hold up really well as an adult.
yeah.
I recommend. And also, I know people who read them for the first time as an adult and loved them. So
I think I've read the first one.
I recommend it. That plays a lot with the idea of if certain gods aren't believed in, they just cease to be.
Yeah, I mean, Sandman plays into that as well, doesn't it?
It does. American Gods.
Yeah, American Gods is all about that. And I might be actually conflating Sandman and American Gods in my head a bit there.
No, there's definitely some of that in Sandman. American Gods is
I mean,
like all the modern gods, like the TV media are created.
The only truly eternal beings in the Sandman are the Endless.
Yes.
Because they're concepts as opposed to
entities.
Yeah. And even then, they all die before death. Like, I love that notion. Death is the second oldest. Destiny's older than her. But death is the last one to go.
Death will outlast destiny.
Yeah, Death's the one who turns out the lights, effectively, on the way out. Sees the universe out.
Yes. Ah, man, Sandman's so good.
Yeah, it is.
Do you know what? I hate doing this show sometimes because it makes me poor. Because I have to go and buy all the Department of Truth now.
It's worth it.
How dare you make me spend my day off tomorrow reading all of Department of Truth?
The problem is we're terrible influences on each other when it comes to buying comics.
We really are. But, the problem is, do you know what the real problem is, Salo? Comics are good.
Yeah,
and I like reading them.
Yeah.
How dare they?
My next project is rereading the first 5 issues and then catching up on the rest of Something That's Killing the Children before the spin-off series starts.
Oh, yeah. See, I'd be tempted, but fancy the looks.
Yeah, I've got them all digitally already though, so it's.
Yeah, I don't.
I've just not been. I've been
that
buying them. I've just not been
reading. Yeah, not that stops me. Says the man with every single Black Hammer comic released up until the last few months.
I digitally bought all of them as well. I've got to read them.
I have all of them except like the last 2 or 3 issues. And here I am buying the library editions anyway.
Yeah. It's nice to have them on your iPad though, because if you're going on holiday somewhere, you're gonna throw
I'm not
your tablet in your bag,
lugging that library edition around, am I?
That's the thing. Like the greatest thing is that you're going on a trip. Tablets allow you to take an infinite amount of comics with you. Well, not an infinite amount, but close enough.
Damn near.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, if you got Wi-Fi, infinite amount.
And so we were talking about who. So yeah, Tynan is the big one. But you've got Zdarsky, Molly Ostertag, who's mostly worked in graphic novels and things like that. She's recently been a writer on... Sorry, correct myself there. They've recently been a writer on Owl House and from Disney.
The cartoon that people absolutely love.
Yes.
That I have not seen a single second of, but I've heard very, very, very good things.
The wife of... Noel Easterton, showrunner of the recent She-Ra
Oh
reboot.
right, okay. I never watched that either.
But yeah, they're gonna be basically doing a new graphic novel, and again, they've been in that kind of webcomic to graphic novel pipeline before,
Hmm.
and I think that's effectively just what they're using the grant for, webcomic into graphic novel.
Yeah, and I think we should talk about the actual stipulations here. Is Substack don't take any publishing rights
Nope.
whatsoever. Nothing. The creators can take their fully funded, granted thing. They could self-publish them if they want. They can go to Image. I imagine in this case, where they're more of a webcomic to that, they'll
That's
probably
why
go to a more traditional publisher.
back onto what we were discussing earlier, outside of a few folks, the overwhelming, even the people who have an issue with Substack, the overwhelming opinion seems to be, I can't blame any of the creators for taking this deal because
It's damn
comics
near
are terrible
perfect.
for creator rights, for pay, for
And it is a damn near perfect deal in that
yeah,
here you go, here's money. Go create as much or as little as you want with
as
that
good
money.
as the Image deal is, right? This is arguably better.
Yeah, yeah. Because this is here's X amount of money. Go make comics or don't. Sell those comics as well for more money if you want, or don't.
Yeah,
It's entirely up to you what you do. It's amazing.
it's we did say Saladin Ahmed, he's doing one as well.
Yeah, we mentioned him.
We did. I think we mentioned him in regards to something else earlier, not necessarily in regards to one of the creators on.
Yeah, I think we mentioned him in regards to how
Yeah.
he wasn't going to like give up the platform,
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
which by
Mention
implication,
implication. Yeah.
yeah,
So yeah,
but we
they're
didn't
the.
explicitly.
I'd say they're the big 4, 5 so far.
Yeah,
6. I forgot Snyder for a second. I was very tempted for Snyder's writing classes if I would be more free to do them.
I am very fortunate in that I have no appeal of writing, so it's like, ooh, could save my money on that one.
Yeah, for me, it's more of a fact like, hey, $7 for a writing class from Scott Snyder.
I get that. I get that
I was
appeal.
very
Yeah.
tempted by Kieran Gillen's masterclass that he did with Guardian the other.
That's more appealing to me in the sense that it's just a one-off. Here's 2 hours, whatever it's going to be, as opposed to an ongoing thing.
But yeah, it is potentially industry shaking
Yeah,
news.
like obviously DC and Marvel aren't going to care too much. They'll fill
Yeah,
the void with Tynan with
I
other
don't
people,
think
no problem.
it's going to kill the direct market, but it's giving creators a real shot at an alternative if it works. That's the key, really, isn't it? If it works. But
Yeah.
again, from reading between the lines of how some of them have been responding to how many people have been subscribing,
Yeah, I know
yeah,
Tynan said he gave Snyder, informally, a number he'd be happy with by the end of his first, I want to say, was it week or month? And he said they beat it in 3 hours.
and Snyder
By the end
said
of that day, they'd like doubled it.
he's going to have to put a cap on subs. He's going to have to stop
Really?
because it's potentially too large for what he's planning on.
Was he planning on giving feedback then?
Only to certain higher tiers.
Right.
But I even think necessarily everyone had like Q&A time kind of thing and whatnot.
Hmm.
So yeah, he's put a hard cap on it now. That once they hit that number, they
That's very
won't,
interesting.
unless I guess people drop out.
Which I'm sure some people will. It'll be monthly.
I mean,
Some will drop in and out.
Zdarsky made the typical joke about how no one's subscribed and he gets how we have more important things to spend their money on.
That's very Starsky, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm actually very disappointed that he won't be attending Thought Bubble anymore.
yeah, he's put a close to conventions.
Any and all
hasn't he?
cons at the moment.
Understandable.
It's a real shame because I wanted to do my gag with him and Tynan. I was going to print out the first issues of their newsletters and get them to sign those.
Yeah, you can still do
And
it for a
and
time then.
that was something I'm on public record on video saying that well over a year ago. Now
Yeah.
that this is a big thing, it's like, see, newsletters, they were the way the whole time. We were ahead of the curve, James.
We have been a big proponent of newsletters on this.
We have. I get shit from Pete and Matt on the other show
What, you get
all the
shit
time
from
when I'm.
Pete sales figures?
Yes, yes. I do because I'm like, I just want to bring up something from a newsletter, and he goes, oh, every time.
Have you had a chance to discuss this on the show yet?
No, I was supposed to be do. Obviously, this news all broke this week as we
Yeah.
record this. That would have been on yesterday's episode, but I had to work. So
Did they discuss it?
I'm sure they will have done in a roundabout way
Yeah.
because it obviously affects DC Comics with Tynan.
Yeah.
So they'll have talked at least that element of it, and I don't know how much they spiraled out from that. You'll have to listen to find out. But shill go at DC Comics
Without your
podcast.
abject
Comics from the
nerdery,
multiverse.
probably not as much. They're cool comic readers.
Yeah.
Well, Matt may be the cool comic reader. Pete likes sales figures.
I have so many memes in my phone that I've made that is just making fun of Pete's sales
Some of
figures.
the ones you tweeted. Oh, I love the meme I made the other when someone accused Alden of. We're aggressively online, and these are. We've all been in the same.
Alden of Acto Radio,
Yeah.
Star Wars podcast, and
Has been on
more.
it. He was in the Star Wars special of a Double Bill Feature Club on this channel.
There you go.
Yeah. But yeah, we've all known each other for years through various online groups.
I've all kind of split into various
Alden, you may know Alden
enterprises.
also for he's the Twitter Star Wars hot take guy. If you've seen a Star Wars hot take on Twitter, it may have come from him.
There's like at least a 60% chance it was one of his nonsense tweets. And he has a lot of nonsense. I love the guy, but he has a lot of nonsense tweets, and he knows it.
Star Wars Dua Lipa. That's his. That's
Pretty much.
yeah. That's his brand. But
Yeah.
obviously, someone quote tweeted him and was like, "This is who the Lucasfilm Story Group is making." And yeah, I love that. I am the Lucasfilm Story Group meme. I was really proud of that one.
Oh, well, it was good. I don't know if I liked it or not, but I definitely saw it and laughed.
You liked it, I think.
Okay, I can remember already. I literally I woke up at 4 a.m. one day last week for no reason. I couldn't get back to sleep and it was shit. So I just made a meme and posted it. I was like, I'm half asleep. This is terrible, but I'm going to post it anyway. And that's what I do.
Yeah, memes. They're fun.
They are.
But yeah, I think we probably because I think we want to discuss this a bit with Andrew and get his take on it.
Yeah,
as well.
we'll come and
Because
this will be definitely
if this
something we
takes off
revisit.
as well, if this is the kind of place where creators like Andrew, in theory, it's a different into comics, isn't it? It's a different.
It's interesting because if we think of in terms of direct market comics, American comics, the current route is make stuff for yourself and make a bit of a name so you can get hired by DC
basically
or Marvel.
make stuff for Image that you don't make any money on, get hired by one of the big two, and then go back to making stuff for Image.
Yes, go to the big two, work your way up till you've got your own name recognition, then go off and go back to Image or elsewhere, and bring your fan base with you where you actually make money.
Or I guess there was a small set amount of years where one of the ins was be one of Scott Snyder's students.
That is true.
And I'm not saying that as a nepotism thing. I think that was a short but valid way into the industry for a.
I think in some ways it was nepotism in that he was recommending them and bringing them in.
Well, he talked in the Batman newsletter how he got in to write in the backups in Batman was that he became friends with Snyder. Snyder was teaching him, and then because Snyder knew how big of a comics fan he was,
he just invited.
He basically he became his nerd sounding board.
Yeah.
Where he wanted to know, like, how do you think like the real DC fans will react to this or this? And then it's like, I need to put backups in Batman. I haven't really got the time to write them. Do you want to come and co-write them with me?
Yeah. And
I
so
mean,
yes, in some
Tynan isn't the
regards,
only Snyder student to have
uh,
broken in either.
is it Bennett, Margaret Bennett, I think as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I
and
mean,
this is the
obviously, he's
thing.
been
You go, oh,
teaching
it's
lessons
nepotism,
at
but
DC as well in recent years, hasn't he? And
it
DC's
was.
a talent kind of.
I'm specifically regarding those two were ones he
Again,
was teaching
I overly air quote.
externally. They were the ones he was externally teaching, independently at whatever schools it was.
Yeah.
But both of them are very good.
Yeah,
Clearly,
they are.
clearly we like Tynan
Yeah.
and Bennett. I've liked a lot of Bennett's books as
Yeah.
well. So, not every book, but a lot of them.
I
But I
mean,
haven't liked every Tynan book, to be fair,
there was
especially some
a
of his
time
earlier
being
stuff.
where I think Bombshells was potentially one of the best things DC was putting out.
Oh man, it was so good.
And again,
And that
a comic based on a statue line should not be that good.
No, and that was probably running at a similar time to when Tynan was doing Talon, which I thought was
Yeah.
terrible. So, yeah,
I think Talon had the problem of being, the Talon
Talon.
book. Yeah.
it was Talon, wasn't it? That was
It
the
was-
problem.
And you know what's really interesting about that? Talon, I know Talon still, or at least Talon still linger within the DC.
Yeah, so every so
Universe.
often. Yeah.
But Talon was positioned to, in theory, be that decade's Sword of Azrael.
Sure.
Because after Nightfall, Azrael got his own book, and that thing ran.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. it did.
also, one creator pretty much from start to finish of the Azrael book. I clocked it when looking on Infinite the other week.
Worth noting, this was the 90s.
It was, but there is a 90-issue Azrael series written from start to finish by Denny O'Neil,
Yeah.
and it's just
And, it's
relatively
good from what I've read of it.
unpublished. Other than obviously being published when it came out, but it's relatively
Yeah. Uncollected.
yeah, that would be the term I was looking
Thank
for.
God for DC Universe Infinite,
Yeah.
because I guess we're shelling
I mean, this
subscription
was then
services
around
again.
a similar time that he was writing for Question, or after the Question? After the Question, wasn't it?
After Question was
Yeah.
80s, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. So this would have been mid-90s, like 90, 95, 96, I imagine.
Yeah, and I can't help but feel Talon was a attempt at getting a
Probably was, yeah.
link in it. I loved the annual of Catwoman where we see Thingy as a part of the Azrael story.
Oh, the villain,
Yeah,
Father Valley,
Yeah, Father Valley.
which Pete insists on calling Father Valet for some reason, which
Is he linking it because Azrael is John Paul Valet?
we were saying this from the introduction of the character. I don't know. It's like Valley's a word. It's spelt like that. Just say Valley.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but
but then he's not. Oh yeah, no, he's probably right. But no, it's spelt Valley, isn't it?
it's spelled Valley. Valley.
Oh no, but John Paul Valley's spelt that way as well.
I don't know anymore.
And obviously, he was the adopted son of John Paul's dad. So he might have
Yeah.
taken Father. It may actually be Father Valley. Pete might actually be right. I'm sorry to say.
Yeah, but he was doing it like well before we had any connection.
Okay, maybe Pete's psychic as well.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It was always weird to me. I was like, why leap to that pronunciation? Even if it's correct, it was a strange leap to me.
Yeah, I've been saying Valley, but now thinking about it, and with you saying that, I think it probably is Valley.
It probably is, but it was more just that it was the random leap to that from the start.
Or maybe he saw that and actually thought there was a link from the get-go.
He didn't. He definitely didn't. No.
Because now thinking about it, having seen that name, it feels all the more obvious. Like if it's like, oh, they gave us his name, and his name is the same surname as. It all feels like, oh, this feels like it was actually.
There was a plan. Yeah.
Which is weird in comics because quite often there just isn't. Like,
You'd be surprised at how often there's not a plan.
yeah,
I take Tynan's Batman as a case in point.
yeah.
making up as he goes along.
So, any non-DC, non-Substack thoughts this week?
Uh, I have not read that many comics this week, unfortunately. I've been chipping away at rereading my Black Hammer library editions, which are very nice. I don't think there was any really big news this week. There was
I
other
mostly
than
caught
the
up on
Substack.
Department of Truth, which had a Bigfoot arc.
Is Tim reading it now then?
I did try and pitch it to Matt.
Yeah, Matt'd love it.
Yeah,
I got Matt reading Once and Future when I was like, especially when it got to the Beowulf stuff. I was like,
I've
Matt's
got
doing
so
Beowulf.
much Once and Future to catch up on.
It's so good.
Maybe I should just do the two Boom books on Something is Killing the Children and Once and Future this week.
Yeah.
I've got one day off tomorrow, so
yeah, I've got tomorrow off and then Friday. I've got Monday and Friday my days off.
I think I'm actually off Saturday this week as well.
No, I was, and then there was another case of COVID, and there was like 6 people isolating, and they were like, "Please, can you cover this shift instead?" I was like, "God damn it!"
The answer is always no. No, I can't.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing. It got rid of one of my earlier shifts. I was supposed to work Monday at like 1 o'clock, and that's very early for me. I don't want to work at 1 o'clock. I want to be asleep at 1 o'clock.
Talking 1 in the afternoon?
Yes. Most of my shifts start at like 4:30 or 5, and I'll work till like 2 a.m. That's like my like 4 days a week. That's my pattern, and then they'll go, "We want you in at 12." They want you in at 1, just every so often. I'm like, no. I don't like it.
Well, on that note, I think that's it for the week.
Yes, I'm going to probably be going roped into playing more board games because Paige is off as well, so I don't have a choice.
I did just buy. Mainly, this was inspired by Department of Truth. Robin Hood versus Bigfoot.
That sounds amazing. I don't know what it is, but
it's a 2-player game. So there's a series of games put out partly by Mondo, the poster company.
Okay.
I think they're handling getting unusual licenses. Because the series is called Unmatched. And the concept is it's a miniatures card battler. So all your movements and actions are determined by cards. You have a deck, you draw from it. Each character plays differently.
Okay.
And there's a few 4 character sets and a few 2 character sets. And there's a couple of 1 character sets just to add to your possible. They're not solo games, but they just add to what people can play as.
Yeah.
First set they released is called Battle of Legends, Volume 1, and that has King Arthur, Medusa.
You're gonna make me poor again, James.
Sinbad and Alice of Alice in Wonderland in it. They released that along with Robin Hood versus Bigfoot as a 2 character set. And
are they all like standalone if you wanted to play just one?
Apart from the solo characters.
Okay.
So, for example, you can't buy the Bruce Lee set and play that.
Right, you need to play that with someone else.
With
a different set.
Basically, if you had Robin Hood versus Bigfoot and you also bought Bruce Lee, which again, just let that sentence roll around. In
theory, then I could then play Bruce Lee versus
Bigfoot,
Robin
or Bruce Lee versus Robin Hood, or there's also a standalone Deadpool, and they're the only 2 standalones. There's a 2-player Jurassic Park, where it's raptors versus an insect security guard. There is a 4-player Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which is Buffy, Angel, Spike, and Willow. And then there is 2 3-character Marvel sets coming, which has got one of them is Moon Knight, Ghost Rider, and Luke Cage, and the other is Daredevil, Elektra, and Bullseye.
Yeah, there's a set here with Invisible Man, Jekyll and Hyde,
That is
Dracula, and
the
Sherlock
Cobble and
Holmes.
Fog set,
Yeah.
which by a lot of accounts is the best, from what I've read. As in, but not necessarily the best to learn the
No,
game
but
with.
God damn it. Why? Why would you do this to me, James?
And then they've got another Legends set coming out, but I can't remember who's in that one. And there's another 2-player set coming out as well, which is Little Red Riding Hood versus Beowulf.
And these are then all mix and match.
Yeah, if you have multiple sets, you could play any of them against anyone on any board.
So you could play King Arthur versus Little Red Riding Hood.
Yeah, and they're all 2 players. Obviously, if you've got a 4 set, you could play with up to 4
Yeah.
players. The boards
God
are a
damn it.
little bigger in the 4-player sets, so they can accommodate more
Yeah.
players. I've got the original
No.
set that I played once and I quite enjoyed it, but I've not had a chance to play it again. So I picked up the, and then also in the Bigfoot mood, I picked up Cryptid. But that's a 3 to 4 player game, so probably not.
Yeah, no, I'm out.
That's gonna be
So it's a hard
future
2-player
club
limit.
game for me. But yeah, Unmatched. I think you could get a kick out of, and it's definitely not the kind of thing, anything like stuff you've picked up so far.
Yeah.
Because it is very much miniatures combat, kind of,
But with cards.
but with cards instead of dice, and you can. I think you can either play a card for what it does, or you can just play it as movement. So you have to make that tactical decision of,
Yeah.
oh, do I need a move or do I? And all the characters have sidekicks as well that are on the field too. So Bigfoot has the jackalope.
See, this is what I mean. Like this is why I can do this and not RPGs. This is no, there are things here. I have tactical decisions to make and do this and that, and I know exactly what my outcome is going to be.
That's what combat is like in some RPGs. It's how combat is
Sure,
like in D&D at least.
Right, but then there's the choice of, if I'm not doing combat, what am I going to do? There's so much more to it that I
D&D
can't
is
be bothered
mostly
with.
combat.
Right,
It's not.
but-
D&D's no, that'd be getting into my whole philosophizing on what D&D is good at and what it isn't good at, and that's not,
Right.
this is not the conversation for that.
Whereas these, it's like, no, I have 5 cards.
Yeah,
Hypothetically, I can do these 2 things, and that is it. What am I going to do? That are my only options. That I can enjoy. So I've been playing a lot of Seven Wonders Duel.
I've never played it, but I've heard nothing but good things about Seven Wonders Duel.
it's
It is
a
considered
good
one
one.
of the best 2-player games on the market.
It's good. I get very competitive. I always get competitive when playing games. Shocker, I know. But yeah, been enjoying that.
Yeah, so that Unmatched. It's a combination project between Mondo, Restoration, who's a company that restores old games. Because Unmatched is actually based on an engine of a prequel era Star Wars board game. It's not the Star Wars game. It's obviously had all the Star Wars stripped out of it, but
Yeah.
it's based on the mechanics and the engine of that game. Which I think it would be hilarious if Mondo get given the ability to make a Star Wars set for it. Like, full circle.
Yeah, good luck to them.
I mean, they've got Marvel.
That's true.
They've got Buffy. All Disney franchises now.
So it is.
They've got Jurassic Park from Universal. You're seeing this mixture of public domain sets and
Licensed.
licensed sets. And the idea, I think, in theory, they could probably keep the public domain sets in print forever. They might lose the licenses eventually.
And maybe buy those other ones first.
If you want a licensed set, I would say buy the licensed set.
Yeah.
Because, as with all things license based, unless it's something from Hasbro that has perpetual licenses for things, licenses expire.
Yeah, that is the case with everything. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a fascinating game. It came out at the same time as the Pop Funko board game, which was also a very similar miniature based board game that used pop figures as the playing pieces.
Did you have to supply your own pops?
No, the boxes came in not quite full scale, slightly smaller pop
the
figures.
small ones. Yeah.
Not quite keyring size,
Oh, like somewhere in the
like
middle.
slightly smaller than an actual box pop, but still significantly bigger than a keyring. And yeah, you use them as miniature figures, and they got a lot of DC license. So there's like a Batman one, a Wonder Woman one, a second Batman one. They got a lot of Warner licenses to make
Mm.
that. I don't think it's as good of a game as Unmatched though. Unmatched is a really clever card. The card mechanism is if it's again it's kind of if you like Slave Aspire and games like that, I think you'd get a big kick out of Unmatched because it's that same. You're not adding cards into your set. Your deck is set from the start, but
Mm.
it's that same kind of thought process of what's the optimum card to play here and what's
Speaking of comics related ones, what I just played earlier was the Tea Dragon Society game, which, as far as I'm aware, is based off of a Boom series.
oh I've not heard of it.
I think it is anyway. Tea Dragon Society. I'm gonna double check now. Uh, it's definitely a graphic novel of some sort. I know that. It's definitely based off of that. And it's like a deck builder sort of. There's a communal tableau to build from.
Yeah,
Build a little deck and score points. It's pretty simple, but
there's there's two card games I absolutely adore. That unfortunately, I think they're worth having. They're so cheap. I think they're worth having in your collection for the future when you might have a guest or something like that.
mm,
Love Letter, which is a
okay.
wonderful bluffing game. Again, it's like £9, and the idea is that everyone at court, people at court are potentially trying to sneak a love letter to. I haven't played it in a while, so the rules are a bit fuzzy. But it's this cool little bluffing game where you're trying to be the last one without like cards and things. It just is. It's a very good game.
Mm.
And High Society, that is a bidding game. You're bidding to get to be the most prestigious in High Society, but you can't
Right.
bid. You have a set hand of money, and some of the things that I bid would devalue you. Some are really good, and some are just fine. But you have to be really tactical about it, and you can't just bid on the good stuff because if you have the most valuable items but no money at the end, you instantly lose. If you have the lowest, if you got
It's
the
kind
lowest,
of an auction game then.
it is an auction game, yeah. If you've got the lowest money left, regardless of if you've got the highest score, you've lost
Yeah.
because you're cash strapped. You're not really rich anymore.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So it's this. It becomes this very careful game of like, and I just think it plays really well. But again, it's a four-player game, so it's one of those. I think it's a cheap game that's worth having in your library for those few times. Or because of how small and compact it is, it's a perfect pub game.
Yeah. So you think I have guests?
Perfect pub game. I know you like the pub,
I do like the pub. Do like the pub.
but yeah, it's yeah. There's lots of good games out there. Board games, man. They go beyond Monopoly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Monopoly is not even that good of a board game.
I despise it. It takes so long to do nothing.
Monopoly's bad, and Monopoly engenders bad feelings. As in, no one but the winner comes out of Monopoly having had a good time.
Yeah.
There's a although there's a RPG writer I follow. I pay for his Patreon because he creates a game every month.
A game every month.
They're one-page games,
I was going to say, bloody hell.
but he comes up with a one-page game every month.
Fair enough.
One of them is a wonderful. Their rules light. They're designed for just one-off kind of one-shots.
Sure.
One of his most famous one is called Honey Heist, where you play a bunch of bears trying to heist honey.
As you do.
Yeah, and you have like a stat of like bear to like even like how much can you. So the idea is that you're breaking into say a honey convention, pretending to be people trying to steal honey, and you all wear hats, and it's like if you have to roll like, can you passably pass as not a bear right now? It's the kind of silly, fun game you'd play for 4 hours, and then when you DM, if you're playing a D&D campaign, it's the kind of thing you play when your DM wants a break and someone else runs it.
Yeah.
We have another one called Crash Pandas, where it's about a bunch of raccoons who take control of a car and race it in Fast and Furious style action. And the racing mechanic is genius. You use a 6-sided die. Each face does something. And the idea is that all these raccoons are trying to drive the car.
Right.
So everyone, without conferring with each other, places their dice on one face. And then all those actions resolve.
Right.
Because if like one raccoon's
So if
pulled the steering
everyone's
wheel,
chosen a 1, everyone's doing the same thing.
if one was left, you'd veer all the way
Very
to
far left.
But
Yeah.
then, say there's an object coming, something coming up that you're about because it's kind of done in turns, like all the cars move in turn-based kind of order. So there's something coming up where you are. One person sees it and turns left, the other person sees it and turns right. You stay on track. I ran that once, and I put I set in a dystopian LA where acting had been banned. So actors had turned to illegal street races to fund, and Harrison Ford had drove a camper van with a giant shaggy dog.
Harrison Ford would be driving a plane.
He would, yes, but and then I had
failed.
I had The Rock as a police officer, which was fun. But yeah, he makes these one-page games, and the one he released this month basically uses a Cluedo board.
Okay.
He's basically created the game entirely designed to work within the frame of Cluedo. And the idea is he's calling it anti-Cluedo because you want to be the murderer. Your relative left a will that only the person who killed them would get their wealth. So you're all trying to frame yourselves for the murder.
Okay.
And yeah, it all plays out on a Cluedo board with like Cluedo cards and Cluedo parts and.
This is just Clue for the Americans out there.
Yes, sorry. It's
boring
called
bastards.
Cluedo.
Yes.
Clue is a bad name. Cluedo is fun.
Cluedo is Googleable.
The amount of people also who don't seem to get where Cluedo comes from as a name. It's like, because it's a combination of Clue and Ludo, the famous board game. Cluedo.
Yeah. It's not complicated.
No.
Unless you're American, apparently, in which case it's way too complicated.
Like, you know how long it took me to realise Clue was a film of Cluedo because it's called Clue?
Quite a good film, actually.
I've never actually seen it.
And
yet, I know it's aggressively my thing.
Yeah, it is not high art, but it is fun.
And I know it had several different
you
endings
will...
when it came out of the cinema.
Yeah, you don't get that anymore, unfortunately.
No.
You just get whatever it gives you. But whatever the default ending is.
It's on Amazon
it's
Prime,
good.
And I think Amazon Prime plays all the endings one after the other.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, I believe so. It's on my watch list to watch. I've just never got round to it.
You would definitely enjoy it. It is your sort of stuff. It's very fun.
Yeah.
I do recommend it. I recommend it to even people that aren't you. It's a fun murder mystery.
And has Tim Curry, and Tim Curry's
what's not to
always
like
a
about
delight.
that?
Like I think Tim Curry's Command and Conquer Red Alert 3 bit is one of the greatest lines ever uttered. To the point where we even did our own take on it in another show on the channel.
Oh dear.
When we did our actual play RPG stream, the Dice Fools, it was in space. So the opening of each episode has one of us saying Dice Fools and then really hamming up the in space part in whatever way we wanted to take it. But yeah, on that note and that plug for another show that you could go and watch right now. If you want to watch some people roll dice in space, it's there. We shall see you in a couple of weeks. Bye.